Hey, what's up people? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Desmond Z, if this is the first time you've ever seen me. So, as we all know, March is Women's History Month, and if you've watched my channel for a while now, you know that I read a lot of books by women naturally. So, I don't need a month to tell me to read a book by a woman. I'm gonna try to do some of the ones that are recent, and then I'll go through and just highlight some of the ones that I've talked about before, which are just like some of my all-time favorite ones. So, starting with The House of Eve by Sadiqa Johnson. Now, I read this last month in February, but I never talked about it, and now this is the perfect time. First, I should mention that this book is set in the 1950s. It is historical fiction, and one of our main characters, her name is Eleanor, and she starts off as a 19-year-old college student going to Howard University. And there she meets this guy named William. Yes, oh look at me, remembering. She meets this guy named William who comes from his family. They have money, they are like an elite black family, and they look down upon, you know, all the little people. They don't socialize with, you know, scum of the earth, you poor black people. They don't do that. They don't socialize if you ain't got no money and you ain't got no status. So she meets him while she's at college, and he's a med student, and they start dating, fall in love, blase blase blase, and so they get together. But his mother and her entire circle, they don't approve. They don't approve of this because his mama already got somebody picked out for him who she believes he should be getting married to and should be dating. And now you bring this low-class girl up in my house and think that I'm supposed to accept her? No, his mama not having it. So that's pretty much Eleanor's battle. She is trying to get these people to like her and dealing with the struggles of trying to, you know, go to college, get her degree, and dating this man and dealing with his horrendous family, mostly his mom. And she believes that, you know, having a baby, being married, starting a family will make them accept her and love her. So she deals with fertility issues in the book. And our other main character is Ruby. Now, she is a sophomore in high school when we first meet her, and she's about to be the first person, she's on track to be the first person in her family to go to college. Until Ruby meets this white boy whose name is Shimmy. I think that's his nickname, yeah. His nickname is Shimmy, and they fall in love, and that derails her entire like trajectory in life, and she's got to find her way back, like to get back to where she was before. Now, I did not care for Ruby's storyline, even though I know why it has to be told, obviously because I read the book. I know why Ruby's story had to be told, because we needed Ruby to move Eleanor's story along, and I won't spoil a lot for you, but when you start reading this book, it's very clear to see where the storyline is going. Like it's not hard to guess at all, but I don't believe that the author was trying to hide that in any way. I believe it's more about the journey of how we're going to get here, because from the jump, you see, once we get a couple of chapters in for each character and you see what's about to happen, you're like, oh, okay, I know where this is going. I know this is going. But like I said, I believe the author wanted it to be more about the journey, and she didn't care that you probably figured out from the very beginning what this story is about. But like I said, I didn't care much for Ruby's storyline because of her and this whole Shimmy Boy. I didn't care about her loving versus Virginia battle. I did not care. You know, love is love, and I'm going to say that till I die. Love is love, and love who you want to love. You can't help that at all. But the reason I did not care about Ruby's storyline is because I felt like there was a different story that was there. Like her aunt, the Ruby's aunt, that was such a strong character, but we don't get much of her. But anytime she's on the page, like, I'm drawn to her and I want to hear more about her. And also Ruby's relationship with her mom there was a lot of drama between the two of them, and that could have been explored a lot more. There was so many different aspects to Ruby other than her main storyline that I actually preferred. But because of the story that needs to be told here, that's why the author went that way. It's just, yeah. So that's my take on this. I gave this like 3.5 stars. If it was just going solely based on Eleanor's, it probably would have been like a 4 or 4.5. I did enjoy this, but if I'm just looking at it overall, it's a 3.5, which is still not bad for me. A 3.5 is still a solid read to me. Next is Last Summer on State Street. Now this is a coming of age story, but it doesn't really feel like YA. Because our narrator is looking back on her life, so it feels more like you're sitting down talking to your friend, y'all having a glass of wine or something, and they're giving you like details, telling you stories about some of the things they went through in like one of the most pivotal points of their life. And that's what this story is. Our main character is Felicia Stevens, who goes by the name of Fifi, and we go back to the summer of 1999. Party like it's 1999. And Fifi is telling us about her childhood and about 3 or 4 of her friends and how the summer that just like completely changed their life and on their street that they lived on in Chicago. You get to touch on the neighborhood they lived in, their relationship with their parents, their relationships with their siblings and their friends. And I think that's something that we all can look back on, especially like childhood friendships, those people who were really there for you when you just really started coming into your own, and like maybe you don't talk to them anymore, you haven't seen them in 5, 10, 15 years, but they live, like the memory of them is very vivid in your head, and whenever they come up, or whenever something strikes up a memory of them or that time in your life, it's like it's fresh, and it's just like you can smell it in the air. You can smell it in the air. That's the best way I can describe this book. And even though all of the main characters' experiences are not mine, there are definitely some in here that I can relate to. Losing friends as a child, making new friends, being afraid of, you know, coming into your own, and all those different things. It's just very nostalgic and just a refreshing read. Now. It was not a 5-star read for me. It was definitely more of a 4, and it's because of all those things I just said. But what brought it down from being a 5-star was, I feel like there were times where it was just like the book was just really strong, and it would just da 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 da, but then we would dip, and then we would go back up and go da 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 da, and then it would dip again. And it was just like we never kept that steady pace. We would just da 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 dip da da da, like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like you know what I'm saying. The next one is Mame. Mame is about a 25-year-old Ghanaian British girl who's 25 years old, and she spent her entire life taking care of her family. She's been a caretaker for her dad while he's been sick. Her mom has been in and out of the picture, going back from London to Ghana, and her brother has just been off doing his own thing. But for most of her life, she has had to be the adult in the house. And finally at 25, she's getting the chance to spread her wings and fly, because she has become a butterfly. So now basically we follow along with Maddie, is her name, Maddie, as she experiences a lot of her own first dates, first apartments, and this, that, and the third. I did enjoy some aspects of this, but this was a letdown for me. What I did enjoy the most about, Maddie being 25 and spreading her wings, it's something that, we can all relate to, just like I said with Last Summer on State Street, is, you get older and you start really coming into your own or whatever. So I could relate to that. But what I did not like was, in this book, our main character tells us, she spent a lot of time, because of her job, being the only black person in the room. And, that's taking a toll on her mentally, and, obviously she doesn't like it. So what does she do when she gets the chance to go out on her own and create her, curate her own life? She moves in with 2 white women. She only dates white men for like 90% of this book. She only has 1 black friend who is not actually a part of the plot until like halfway through the book, and then she doesn't stick around for long. And I'm just like, why are we purposely building a story around someone who says they're tired of being the only black person in the room, but then she goes and deliberately makes choices to only be the black person in the room? I'm confused here. Now at work, we know a lot of times we can't control that. We cannot control that because of the nature of the world we live in. But your own personal life? I'm confused. I'm confused. The book was at its best when we were dealing with Maddie and her family. The drama between them, the arguments between her and her brother, between her and her mom. You know, her possibly, you know, losing her dad with him being sick. You know, that's where the story was. I have so many books where I've come across and I'm like, the story is here. We are there, but the story is here. But then again, that's just me. I didn't write the book. So maybe that's the author's lived experience. Maybe that's what she's been through and she had to come out of it to the other side. Or maybe that's just a story she wanted to tell. Hey, and also, you a present day 25-year-old and you don't know anything? Like the internet don't work at your house? Because in this book, she Googling stuff left and right, left and right, left and right. So I know if you Googling it now, you was Googling it then. You was Googling then. You been had to Google. You been had to Google. Maddie was like a 10, 15-year-old a lot of the times. And I'm like, no. I know you fresh into the world as far as living on your own. But you wasn't born last week. You wasn't born last week. What's going on up here? What's going on up here? I've talked about it before. I've gone up and I've gone up and I've gone up about Cara Romero. Like, this is one of the best books that I've ever read. This is one of the best characters that I've ever come across. And if you are looking for a short, quick read with a character that you will never forget, this is the book for you. It is less than 200 pages and our main character is Cara Romero. Audiobook. The audio book. If you don't listen to audiobooks, this is the one. This is the one to convert you. Because I promise, you can even read the physical while listening. Do that. Okay? Yinka, Where's Your Husband? This was another 5-star read for me from last year. And basically, this woman, she went to school, got her degree, she has a job, and she's focused on, just being her and loving her. But everyone around her tells her, you ain't got no man, so what you doing with your life? You ain't complete. And she starts to lose herself because she's listening to everyone around her, mainly her mother, and it's dragging her down, and she's about to crack. She's about to crack up because she's listening to these people tell her she ain't got no man, so she ain't doing nothing. When she doing all the things she needs to do, which is loving her. I gave this 5 stars. By the end of this book, this felt like, I said it before, this felt like my sister, and I just wanted to hug her, and I will forever say that because that's truly how I feel about this book. And I did not expect to love Yinka as much as I did. People person. Now, this book focuses on a group of siblings with our central character is Dimples. I think that's her name. Yes, Dimple. And her 5 siblings all have the same father, and they've only met each other once, and now they're all in like their 20s and 30s, except for 2 of them have the same mother and father, so they grew up in the household together. But the rest of them, they only share the same father, and they've only been together once in their life, until Dimple calls the oldest one day and asks her for help, which brings the entire group back together for the first time in like 10 years. And from there, we get to see these sibling relationships blossom, and they look back on the past and the hurt and trying to create new memories, and it's just a big messy mess. And I really enjoyed this. I think I only gave it 3.5 stars, so it wasn't a 5-star read for me, but this is definitely something that I think is worth reading. It was a solid read, and I feel like I would have gave it a higher rating, I said this last time, if Dimple was not our central character. Like, we get a look into, who each person is, but our main character is still very much Dimple. But she was the least interesting person of all of them. So I feel like if we somehow could have crafted the story around another sibling, it would have made it that much better. But for the story that the author wanted to tell, that is why Dimple, there's a reason Dimple was the central character. Skyfalling is about a 39-year-old black lesbian woman who lives in Philadelphia, and when she was in her 20s, she gave eggs to her then best friend. So 12 years later, this girl comes knocking at the door telling, what's her name? What's our main character? Sky, duh, is the name of the book. This 12-year-old girl comes to Sky and says, hey, you know back then when you donated them eggs, I'm the product. I'm the product of that. And I want you in my life. I need you around. Okay. Also, another one where I would say listen to the audiobook and physically read it, or just listen to the audiobook. It's narrated by Bonnie Turpin, and she's one of my favorite narrators. Amazing. The Weight of Blood. I have never read Carrie by Stephen King, and I think I've only seen the movie once. But this is a retelling of Carrie by Tiffany D. Jackson. Tiffany D. Jackson is one of my favorite authors. I realize now I have like, I think I've read all of her books except for 2. I've never read Let Me Hear a Rhyme, and I think White Smoke is another one of her books. Yeah, I've never read either one of those. I gave this like 4.5 stars. Loved it. Amazing. Things We Do in the Dark. I talked about this earlier this year. Was that earlier this year or was that last year? When did I read this book? Yeah, I read this last year. I read this book last year. Things We Do in the Dark is about, what's that woman's name? Paris. Yeah. Paris has been arrested and accused of murdering her husband. Paris is like in her 30s and her husband is like 25 years older than her. And he was like a famous comedian and he's been murdered. And so Paris gets, you know, blamed for that. So we go through this whole thing. Did she do it? Did she not? And then we get a look back into her life and who she was before she got married to Jimmy, I believe his name was. Jim Jam. I think that's his name. I can't remember. It's not in the blurb. But yeah, this was a thriller mystery. I really enjoyed this. I gave this like 4.5 stars. Loved it. It was good. You should read it. So yeah, that's it. Those are the books that, some of the books that I read last month that I never talked about, written by women, and also some favorites of mine that I've read over time. I really enjoyed those, and hopefully you will too if you've never read them. Also, let me know some of your favorite books written by women. I will always appreciate a good book recommendation. And yeah, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are not, and I will see you next time.